It's That's Lit with me, Shazzy D. And as someone who loves going to the beach, I'm so excited for today's guest. Joining me on the show is Ennia Jones, the founder of A Splash of Color Swimming. It's a program that helps people from diverse backgrounds learn how to swim. Hi, Ennia. Welcome to the show.
Sharon, thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Great, 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 great. Now, okay, let's just take it right off the top. If you could please just explain what a splash of color swimming is about and kind of how it works.
Okay, sure. A Splash of Color Swimming is we're a not-for-profit organization that we help adults from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds learn to swim in a safe, trauma-informed, and culturally respectful way. I started the program 3 years ago because I just kept meeting people who wanted to learn, but most of the available avenues, they just didn't feel like they connected with them. It was either they didn't feel safe, it was too expensive, it was unfamiliar, or they found it overwhelming. And yeah, so I decided to start this up. I literally started it up where my children go for swimming lessons. I've got two girls. And so while my girls were in this having their lessons, I would go and do my laps. It's just part of general exercise. And then I kept seeing all these women sitting in the stands watching their children. And I'm like, how come I'm the only person who looks like me in the water, but there's all these women sitting there? Let's have a chat about it. So I literally, for a couple of weeks, would go up to people and be like, hey, how you going? Is your child in swimming lessons? They're like, yep, they are. And I'm like, well, do you swim yourself? And probably 80 to 85% was no. No, I don't swim, or I'm too scared, or um, it's just not something I enjoy. Um, and yes, I just kept thinking to myself, I think I can do something about this. And so I literally reached out to our local city council. I applied for a local grant. It was about $4,000 at the time. And I said, listen, I want to pay for these women to have swimming lessons. And my local swimming pool I went to them and I said, if I can pay for their lessons, will you teach them? And they're like, yeah, sure. And that's literally how A Splash of Color was born. So that was 3 years ago. We started with 20 women. And this term, we've just wrapped up 12 weeks of lessons. And this term alone, we've had 420 people go through the program.
Oh,
So yeah.
that is amazing for you to just kind of see a need and to just go out, take the initiative, reach out to people and say, you have this program, come and
Yeah.
join. That is huge.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, like, it's been only a couple of years in. You've already mentioned
Yeah.
how many people have already joined. What have they been saying since they joined?
Listen, it's been so I'm a bit of a data nerd. So I believe in surveys and research. I used to work at the university around academics. And so we've been taking surveys since pretty much when we started. And even though behind the scenes of running a program like this can get very challenging, it just really brings it back home when you read some of the feedback that comes through from participants. Um, the most common one, especially amongst women, is just how much more body confidence they have within themselves. When they first show up, everyone sort of, chucks the towel aside and runs into the pool, because they don't want anyone to see what they look like or, etc. And it's just like you just see them towards the end. They are just owning who they are, flabby thighs, big tummies, it doesn't matter. And they're just owning that for themselves. And I think that's just such a positive thing, especially if they have daughters themselves, like a really good role model. If mum's confident about her body, she'll probably pass that on to her kids. Some of the other feedback we get is just about, especially with men, a lot of men carry shame about not being able to swim. And I mean, listen, learning to swim as an adult it can be a humbling experience because learning to swim isn't pretty. Um, but they talk about overcoming shame. Um, and I suppose one of the biggest ones that hits home for me is the amount of people who say they've made friends. People underestimate how lonely the migrant experience can be and making friends with other people, connecting over a shared activity that you both, you couldn't do it and now you can, and you've gone through that journey. is it a positive trauma bonding experience? I don't know. Um, but it's just the social and relational outcomes are for me they are the big green flags for this program. And obviously people being able to swim and feeling more confident, people going on holidays and for once being in the pool with their kids as opposed to just sitting at the sidelines, going to the beach. So yeah, there's just so many takeaways from the program that make it all worthwhile. There's always warm and fuzzy feelings towards the end.
Amazing. And because this is a program for adults, right? Is it people over
Yeah,
18?
yes.
And so I guess speaking to your own experience swimming, could you talk about, did you have a background in swimming? Was your family really, pro swimming, or is it something you kind of learned, later in life?
So my very first experience with swimming was very interesting. Um, so Zimbabwe gained independence like after 1980, and soon after that opened lots of doors, obviously, for Black Zimbabweans. And in our instance, my parents could buy a house wherever they wanted, whereas before suburbs were quite segregated, etc. And so my parents bought this amazing home, and it had beautiful swimming pool and a diving board. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, jackpot. I mean, I would have been very young at that age, but I remember just thinking this is amazing. But literally the day after we moved in, my dad drained the swimming pool and dismantled the diving board. Yeah,
No.
yeah, yeah. I'm telling you, this house could have been on the cover of Better Homes and Gardens. Like, so I grew up overlooking an empty pool and literally the parts of the diving board that were left there after they dismantled it. And it was because he couldn't swim. And I understand now as a parent myself. You want to keep your family safe. But as I reflect on that now, I'm thinking, why didn't he just enroll us all in swimming lessons so we could enjoy this new feature of our home all together? And then as you dig deeper, you find out that swimming wasn't exactly available for everybody. Swimming lessons weren't accessible for everybody. And then you come across these issues of generational trauma, things that we inherit from our people. A lot of people are quite comfortable to say swimming is not for Black people. It's not for us or Asians or South Americans. It's very interesting. Like I could give a whole 1 hour lecture about the history of swimming, but we won't go there. Um, so there's all this generational turmoil, I feel, that's not being addressed. And this perpetuates that narrative that swimming is not for us. And even to the point where people, exclude themselves for swimming just for recreation and safety purposes, you know? So to answer your question, that was my experience of swimming. But I'm very lucky that I went to a school with a very strict headmaster who believed everyone should be able to swim.
And this was in
Um,
Zimbabwe, yeah.
in Zimbabwe, yeah. And we had a pool on campus. And I was very lucky. I went to a school where there was mixed, we were quite mixed. There were white students, Indian students, Black students. It was very culturally diverse, which I'm very happy about. And he sincerely believed everyone should be able to swim to the point where you could not go for the leavers dinner. Here we call it a school formal if you were not able to swim a length at
No
least.
way!
Absolutely. Absolutely. He was adamant about you knew you were not allowed to go to school formal unless you could swim. So I know. So looking back, I am so grateful that I had that sort of a person in my life who was so determined that water safety was a priority for children. And his children could swim like, they were like representing the school, the district, etc. Um, but I suppose I always remember, so I was lucky I could swim from like I think when I was about 9 or 10. That's when I learned to swim and I was okay and comfortable in the water. But I do remember having colleagues at school who they pushed it as far as they could until like grade 7. We called it grade 7 in Zimbabwe. And they avoided it or made excuses. And so I can commiserate with people who are anxious, like your heart's racing, you're feeling embarrassed, you're sweating. I get it. I absolutely can understand it because I did see some of my school friends go through that. But yeah, and so that experience, I guess, has helped to shape the program in some way because um, I know what it's like when you're an adult and you're trying to do something that's quite out of your comfort zone, whether it be learning a new piece of technology, learning to swim, going to a different country where the language and the customs are different. I suppose I just never want adults to feel judged or rushed or out of place. I want them to feel understood and to meet them where they are and hopefully take them across the bridge to where they actually learn to swim and love swimming.
That is incredible. And it's funny touching on your note of like when you started, learning how to swim. I actually also started learning how to swim around that same age, around 9. But
Mm.
that was at the time we had just come to Australia. And my
Okay.
dad, and it's like looking back, I'm like, my dad was very, very um I guess, cognizant of the need to
Mhm.
learn how to swim because as soon as we moved over here, he enrolled us in swimming lessons,
Yeah.
which now looking back, I'm like, that was really cool, especially from a country where it just was not a
Yeah.
priority. So
Yeah.
for my dad to be like, right, get some swimming lessons, and then obviously I also learned at school, but
Yeah.
because at that young age, just so you just wouldn't be afraid, you wouldn't just be
Mm.
afraid of getting in the water. And even like now, I wouldn't say that I'm the best swimmer in the world, but at least I'm comfortable knowing my limitations,
Yeah.
which I feel
Yeah.
is also a big deal, especially somewhere like not just the pool but at the beach. Can you talk about why it's so important to have such programs like this, especially for people who, like you were mentioning, all the reasons why people may be maybe hesitant to not only just
Mm.
swim but just safety as well?
It's really important for people to learn to swim. And I need to give a bit of context. Our program is not only for African people. I think some people get it mixed up that 'cause I'm African, therefore the program is only for Africans. That's not true. It's for anyone who's from a culturally and linguistically diverse background. Um, and just to give you some context, so for example, with the drowning statistics in Australia, last year 357 people lost their lives in Australia. To give you further context, if we take a country like India, in India, 90 people drown every day on average. On average, I think 2019, the last statistics I looked up, 62,000 Indians drowned in India. So that's huge. In Australia, 357. In India, 62,000. It's chalk and cheese. And if you look at the stats again in some parts of South America, the Caribbean, in Africa, they almost they dwarf the Australian statistics. And so you've got people from backgrounds where swimming is not prioritized. I mean, you and I are so lucky that we had people in our lives who cared about that. But I suppose what we're trying to break is that generational, we don't want the people to pass that on to their kids, which happens quite a bit. Because when you look at the statistics in Australia, um, colored people tend to be overrepresented again in the statistics, but we're underrepresented when it comes to swimming lessons, when it comes to even just going to the beach and swimming regularly. And that's not because there's a lack of access. I don't think that's fair. I think most people can walk into a swimming pool if they wanted to, an aquatic center. What stops I'll phrase it this way. Someone once asked me, who are the hardest people to reach um, with regards to your program? And I'm like, it's those people who've already told themselves that they don't belong in swimming pools or in aquatic spaces. The people who've already made up their minds that this is not for me, this is not something I do, they're the hardest people to reach. And it's sort of breaking down that stigma and the cultural barrier regarding, it's only for a certain group of people. It's like, actually, no, it's not. It's for everybody. For people who are, between size 8 and 14. Actually, no, it's not. There's lots of swimsuit companies that make swimsuits up to size 26, 28. And and for those people who modesty is a concern, we're living in an age where you can wear a swim dress, there's swim pants, there's swim t-shirts. So it's sort of breaking down those barriers so we don't have to have these huge stats. Even though in Australia, yes, they are significant, but when you look at other countries overseas, and the people who are coming with that sort of mentality moving to Australia, I feel like we have quite a lot of work to do to break down mental and cultural barriers. Yeah.
Um, I just want to say congratulations to you because you received the Excellence in Cultural Diversity Award from the Aquas 2025, hosted
Yes.
by Royal Lifesaving New South Wales.
Yeah.
What did it mean for you to get that recognition for your work?
It meant the world actually to us. Just the credibility, I guess, that comes with being recognized by Royal Life Saving itself, and the fact that that was the inaugural award. Yeah, so we're the first ones to receive that. And kudos to them for actually creating a category for that, because there are some people who've been doing work in this space much, much longer than we have. Um, I suppose maybe we've been successful in terms of our reach, but there have been people who have been working hard in their local communities, trying to make sure that they're also breaking down barriers, whether it's in the pool or at the beach. But it was really lovely, very, very lovely to have your work acknowledged, especially by Royal Lifesaving, who are sort of like the peak body when it comes to drowning prevention and water safety. Yeah, it really meant the world. It meant the world to us. Yeah.
And you're based in Newcastle, right? In New South Wales?
Yes, we're based in Newcastle, but we do have a presence in Maitland, Lake Macquarie, Central Coast. We've just started out in Sydney, and next year we'll be introducing four more cities. We're just waiting to sign the contracts before I say anything.
Okay.
But yes, but I maybe a hint, the nation's capital, maybe the nation's
Okay.
capital will be there. And a few other towns in regional New South Wales, and perhaps we'll be starting up in a different state. Yeah.
Amazing. So yeah, so that's kind of like the future where you're heading with this, like expanding.
Absolutely expanding. Work on a partnership model with pools, and there's actually a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes before we even get people in the pool. But we're really excited about how the aquatic industry has welcomed us, and are inviting us into their pools and allowing us to have our programs in their pools, which is fantastic.
Yeah, which is great because I know, what, as I was reading up on your program online, it really talks about like a holistic program. So it's not just swimming
Yes.
you learn, it's like
Yeah.
other things like CPI and those kinds of things.
Yes, so before we even go into the pool, we actually have a workshop that we call Welcome to Swimming, and we cover things like, modest swimwear for those who modesties are concerned. We go through swimming etiquette. Swimming is basically it's a subculture, like anything. Like if you are into skateboarding, there's obviously terms and whatnot that would be relevant to skateboarding. Same with rugby, same with cricket, and it's no different with swimming. It's almost like entering this new twilight zone with its own culture and do's and don'ts. And so we try and cover all of that in our workshop, a Welcome to Swimming workshop. And we found that's been really helpful. It helps to answer a lot of questions for people, any concerns. And yeah, so that's how we try and approach it from a holistic point of view, not just putting people in a pool and saying, here's a kickboard, good
So
luck on your bike.
and
Yeah.
it's reminding me of, I don't know if you remember this, back in the day, there used to be this
Yeah.
ad on TV and it was like Kids Alive do the five.
Yeah,
Do you remember?
with Laurie.
And as you were talking about that program, I was like, ooh, it's when you're like, okay, there's like lingo and there's things that go around with
Yeah,
swimming, and it was like,
yeah,
fence the pool, shut the gate,
yeah.
ship kids.
Yeah. Resuscitate. I met the guy. I actually met him at a swimming conference, which is fantastic.
Having that kind of access so early on, very, I would call it basic because it was just like, learn to swim, and it was just very like the early stages. It wasn't teaching you, how to breathe underwater and that kind of thing. But
Yeah. Yeah.
even that kind of awareness to just like open the discussion or even open the conversation can be really helpful around swimming. And so
Mhm.
I just think how your workshops and how your program is really kind of delving into that even before you jumping in the water. I think that's like
Yes.
super excellent because then again it
Oh,
just
thank
makes
you.
you just more comfortable. Like you said, it's like a
Yeah.
subculture. So if you're like
Yeah.
comfortable knowing, okay, do's and don'ts, or even stuff like swim between the flags. Like if that was, one basic thing, like I'm not a strong swimmer. It's like the most basic thing I would do if I went to the
Yeah.
beach was let me
Yeah.
just stay between the flags.
Yes. And also knowing that those flags move while you're in the water. So you have to constantly check. They don't just stay there for the whole day because the surf lifesavers are reading the waves and making sure that the rips are not anywhere near the swimmers. So you need to constantly make sure that you are in between the flags because they do move throughout the day.
Like that, such important information. And I
Yeah.
suppose there's a lot. Look, there's a lot to know about swimming, but
Yes.
what would you say to someone who maybe is a bit hesitant, hesitant about swimming? What would you say to them maybe to maybe start to hopefully get them to consider learning
Okay.
how to swim?
That I'll tell it to you straight. I don't like fluffing around. Swimming is humbling. Learning to swim as an adult is humbling because the way you respond to it may be completely different to someone who started off the same way as you. For some people, floating, they can just do it like that. Not an issue. Yet for others, they have to learn how to relax, fill their lungs with air, etc. I'm starting to teach. And I think it's just having the mental fortitude that you are going to do this because some people get to week 6 and they're like, nah, I'm done. It's not working for me. I wasn't meant to swim. And I'm like always try and take it back to for especially if they're a person from a culture that has like traditional dancing or ceremonial dancing. It's not something you learn in 30 minutes.
Mm, mm.
If you're going to do a dance that has meaning, that's part of a ceremony or part of a culture, there's things you have to learn. Your feet movements mean something, your hand movements mean something. Um, and so give yourself that grace to learn everything bit by bit by bit. It will all come together. For some people, it comes together at week 6. For others, it's week 8 or week 10. And just to really give yourself a break, and you're not perfect, and that's okay.
If someone is interested in joining your program, how can they do that?
I highly recommend they go onto our waiting list. We have quite a lengthy waiting list, so the quicker you can get on there, the better. If you go to our website, splashofcolorswimming.com.au, all one word, and look up the sign up page and sign up there. We may not have a swimming pool in your area yet, but that doesn't matter. If you go on the list now, as soon as we open up in that area, you are the first people that we'll contact that we've got swimming lessons available. And they are currently free. And I say currently, if we run out of funding, we are going to have to start charging or at least subsidizing. So yes, so it's a 12-week program, completely free. We provide you with swimming caps. Even I have a swimming cap for my hairstyle at the moment. So no matter how big your hair is, we have swimming caps for you. Yep.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Is that also
Yeah.
something that, maybe people have mentioned?
No, that was lived experience. Because when I was swimming, I'm like, I remember I went to Big W, not to name and shame, but that's was closest to me. And I went to Big W to look for swimming cap. And I ended up buying two, and I'm like, there were different materials. I'm like, maybe if I put this one first, then I put the other one on top, maybe it'll help. I think I was close to tears by the end of it. I'm like, this is not working. Anyway, long story short, we now have our own range of swim caps that we have, and they go from standard to I think extra large. And extra large can fit if someone had like dreadlocks up to their waist,
Oh,
it could
wow.
you could fit into an extra large, which we have. And so like we've tried to think around all the barriers. Like especially I know hair's big as an African woman, I get it. And it's not just us, like anyone who's got hair dramas would understand. So yeah, a swimming cap will help to keep your hair out of the face. And for example, if you have extensions, pretty much the tips are the ones that get wet, so not the whole head. And that helps, especially like in winter, or if the weather's not sunny, like you don't want to have wet hair for like the whole night or the whole day. So yeah, so swimming caps, we provide swimming caps, we provide goggles. Um, we help you to find inclusive swimwear. And we've got a fantastic partnership with the brand called Curvy Swimwear. And their sizes go up to like size 28 or something like that. If you complete 80% of the swimming lessons, they give you a $150 voucher to go and spend on their website, and you can buy like a really, really nice swimsuit for yourself. So, and they've been on board with us since day one. So, a quick shout out to Kirby Swimwear. Thank you for your partnership. Yeah.
And isn't that, look, to me, that's also one fun thing about either going to the pool or going to the beach is just feeling
Yeah.
really good, feeling cute in
Yes.
whatever swim. Like it can be a full piece, could
Yeah.
be shorts, could be whatever, but just feeling cute, being out in the sun,
Yes.
being out in the water. Like I love it. I love that part
Yeah.
of it.
Oh, yeah. And since working here, I must say, my swimsuit collection has grown.
And yeah, it has been such a pleasure talking to you today. Thank you so much for coming on to the show. And thank you for all the work that you're doing helping people learn how to swim.
Oh, my pleasure. And honestly, Sharon, thank you so much for the platform. I really, really appreciate it. And to anyone who's listening, be part of the solution. Let's change this narrative around swimming. Let's get to the pool and let's keep our community safe.
Thank you. And thank you for tuning in to this episode of That's Lit. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on socials at That's Lit Show. And drop me a comment. Do you know how to swim? What's your favorite thing about knowing how to swim? And if you don't know how to swim, what's something you'd like to learn? Is it something you'd consider learning down the track? Let me know in the comments. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next episode.